everybody, I'm Lisa Young Sutton, and this is video number 2 for the Method of Distance Grand Tableau to help Athena and Jason find their missing dog, Atlas. Now, if you haven't already watched the part 1 video, I will link it in the description box below. But just to recap, I had laid this spread last year for one of my grooming clients, who I am calling Athena, and there's her husband, Jason, because they had lost their dog, Atlas, their newly adopted dog, that day in the park. Okay? So, I was laying this spread to show me where Atlas was at the time that I laid these cards, as well as charging the star and the key for guidance to help Athena and Jason recover him. Okay. Now, everybody in the Facebook group did an incredible job with this case, I have to tell you. I mean, you were all amazing. And even those of you who started out by saying that you were new to GTs or new to mod or new to breeding animals, you all extracted valuable information from this spread that would have been useful in helping these people to find their dog. Everything that you guys saw, even those of you who only saw one little thing, it would have helped these people. So I want all of you to stop second guessing and doubting your abilities. I mean, you're all psychic, you're all fully capable of interpreting the stories imparted by the Lenormand cards if you just would relax and trust yourselves. That's key, right? I mean, even the wrong things that you see will lead to the right things. So in a sense, you're never wrong. The trick is to just keep sifting through the scenarios that develop until you put together the story that makes the most sense. Okay? So let's start with this, going through this with the highlights, and I'll give you the answer here to this Grand Tableau, and then I'll show you those Grand Jeu cards that I had also drawn. All right, so the first thing that you do is you look for your 3 actors, who are Athena, Jason, and Atlas. And of course, as I said, I charged the star and the key. So those are the things that I am primarily looking at. Now, I told Athena, as soon as I looked at these cards, that Atlas was safe. He was happy, right, and warm, and he was running through the mountains, which is where they lost him. Okay, we have flowers and trees and birds and wildlife and all that, right? And here's the park. Okay, so it's a mountainous park where they lost him, and here's the house. All right, so now the cards around him clearly show him happily running through the park, right, where they lost him. But the rider here is important. It shows up in a few different ways, okay? Because it not only told me that he was still actively running loose here, right? He wasn't caught by anyone. He wasn't trapped anywhere. But the rider rather also represents horses. So I knew he was in a place where there was horses, okay? There's a lot of horse trails here in this park. But it also represents visiting or visitors. And whenever I see the rider, I consider that aspect of the card, and then I look for court insets to see who's visiting or who's being visited. And right here, touching the rider, we have a pair. We have the King and the Queen of Spades. All right? Now, this is significant because there's a couple who live just outside of the park, okay? And they saw Atlas. The first day they saw him, they didn't think much of it, even though he wasn't accompanied by any humans, because they've seen that many times, and, you know, the dogs get loose and they go back and, you know, leave, right? But they saw him the second day again, so then they knew that he was loose in the park. So they started putting food out. Here's the bear. They started putting food on their front porch to lure him, and he was coming every day to eat this food, but as soon as they would try to grab his collar, he would slip away and regain his freedom, much to the dismay of his owners. Okay, well, of course, they didn't know about this at the time, but they found out later. All right. Anyway, so that's the story over here. Now, I want you to take note that the house sits in the middle of the spread, right? Now, that has information in and of itself, but it also sits at the corner of Atlas's comfort zone as well as their comfort zone. Okay, it shares the same corner position. So this told me that he wasn't far from the home. All right. Now, okay, so the star. Let's go to the star here, because I had charged this as the guidance card, and it falls right next to Athena. And this is significant because it told me that she needed to change to a new alternative plan here. All right, so she was planning to hire the astrologer / tarot reader, but she, after seeing these cards, she decided to change that and do something else. And at the same time, I wanted to knight the star, and I wanted to knight Athena, but I also wanted to see, how does this star connect to Atlas? And as you can see, it connects to him through the ring and the clover. Now that told me that there would be a successful opportunity to catch him, right, to reunite with him. But this ring was important down here because it's flanked by the whip and the snake. And because I read so many animals, mostly horses and dogs, the whip is my training card, the ring is the card for a collar, and the snake is the card for a leash. So here we have training, collar, and leash. All right, so that was going to play a significant role in this. Now, when I asked Athena if he was still wearing a collar, she said no, he slipped out of his harness. Then I said no, a collar. Is he also wearing a collar? And she had forgotten that he had a collar on, because she was so upset thinking that he had no identification. But then when I was talking to her about this ring card, right, and she said, oh my gosh, he does have a collar on, and it has his rabies tag, and it has that little tag that they put on it to tell people that he is microchipped. The shelter put that little tag on his collar when they microchipped him. So that put her mind at ease. And I have to tell you that when you're working with panicked people who have lost a pet, anything that you say that calms them is helpful. Because if they're calm, they think more clearly and they act more rationally. All right. Now, at the same time, I told Athena that she had the mice and cross in her comfort zone, which told me that her suffering would be short term and that there was a good chance of recovering what she had lost. So that also put her mind at ease. Now, back to the house, that's part of the center two columns, right, which tells you there's trouble at home. And here we have the tree draining the energy out of the house. But we also have, this was significant too, because we have the fox and the coffin here, telling me that he was going to elude the many traps they set before this thing would end. And he was sneaky, all right, and he did elude many traps before this was all over. All right, so now the star knights to the child and the cross, as well as the key. So that told me that the solution would take a while, right? And it would be, wasn't going to be easy, but it would involve many steps, right? Many little steps before they finally got up here to the key. All right. Now, when I knight Athena, she knights to the coffin and the mice. So I told her right away to stop worrying. And she knights up here now. Now she's knighting up here to the key, right? She's knighting to the moon and the tower. Now this is where the answer all comes, okay? Because this told me that she should the solution would be in contacting a reputable organization. An organization that she doesn't know about, but one that is well documented in alternatives to finding missing pets. I was looking at the ways, and I suddenly saw it as tracks, and I said, wait, tracking. I think I called the shelter right there, and at that moment, and I asked if we had any pet trackers in the area, and yes, turns out we had two. We had two right in our local area. All right. Now, I also want to point out before I leave this up here that if you look at both of their columns, what heads their columns. We have the letter and the book, and here we have the scythe, and we have the fox, but we have the key here. Like this whole grouping up here showed that they had to sift through so much information. So much of it was wrong. They had to sift through all the stuff that people were writing to them in that practice group that one of them had posted in. Not to mention the fact that they had put up flyers and they were receiving calls asking about rewards and people offering conflicting sightings and all that. So they had to sift through all this stuff, and finally they said, you know what, we are going to go with the pet tracker. Okay, so you know, there's a lot more here, but I think I hit all the highlights. We've been working through all this in the Facebook group, Lisa Loves Lenormand, Traditional Method of Distance. So if you're not in that group, go ahead and join it. But otherwise, you know, you can ask me anything in the comments below. If it, you know, like I said, I've been talking about this so much in the group that I'm not sure what I haven't touched on yet. But you can go ahead and leave it in a comment below if there's something here that you see that you want to ask me about. Okay, but I do want to get to the Grand Jeu cards because they played an important role in this as well. So let me get them. Now the question I had asked these cards was what? It was like, what's their best course of action, right? What's the best course of action to getting Atlas back? Okay, so now when you lay these cards, you always lay an odd number of cards, an uneven number, because you always have to have a center card. The center card is your main theme. It's like your primary answer. And then the flanking cards, you need to look at that entire card to understand it, but you're mainly just focusing on the small image that touches this center card or that faces, because, you know, like if I had a line of 5 here, I would still just be looking at the small images on the side that face this card. Okay, so the center card is the Queen of Hearts. Now the Queen represents a woman who can offer useful advice or some kind of protection or assistance, right? Now this card could represent me and the role I played in this, especially because physically I am the Queen of Hearts, blonde and over 40, right? But the message of the large image here is that Athena needed to sift through all those who offered assistance to find the right person. Finding the right person was key here. She needed to put herself in the right position to align with the one who would resolve this issue. Now the flower message is the same. Choose between the wise ones and those who will waste your time. And even the small images offer something to the story, because they were telling Athena to follow her intuition and to choose the one whose intentions are pure and who won't quit until the job is done, right? So now that we know what the main theme is through this center card, we can look at the flanking cards. And the card to the left here, this 3 of diamonds, this is forces acting on this card, right? So here you can see that the 3 of diamonds speaks of assistance in reaching your goals and suggests that now is the time to proceed or take action. So it's a card telling you to, you know, to get on your horse and get out there and start looking, right? It's like time is of the essence, right? But you have to look at this center, this main theme here, this main image, rather, is Castor and Pollux. Now, who were they? What were they known for? They were known for saving those in trouble. And they primarily relate to sports and horses in particular. Here we have the horse. What does that look like? It looks like the rider, doesn't it? Oh, I'm pointing up here and you can't see that now. But anyway, remember the rider was right under touching Atlas, okay? So that jumped out at me right there. So the message was to take action and not give up. But it, of course, as a force is acting on this, it's about aligning with the right person too, okay? And the fact that there were many riding into her life offering assistance, but she had to choose the right one. Okay, now over here we have Hercules fighting the lion, right? We have, this is the Nine of Hearts. Now the Nine of Hearts is one of the best cards in this deck. It's kind of like the Sun card in the Petit Lenormand. It's the victory card, right? And the overall theme is that wishes will be fulfilled and victory, but through courage and effort. And again, telling her that, you know, this was going to require some work, you know. But that she would achieve success through action and using strength and, you know, rather than words and ideas, you know. So it's another take action card, basically. So the small image here is the primary one we're looking at. And what is this an image of? It's an image of a woman, right? Here's a woman receiving an award, okay, or being acknowledged as being the chosen one, the right one for the job. Now notice we're seeing a theme here of female, a female theme. And that's important, excuse me, because we have the Queen of Hearts here, and then we have a woman being chosen here. And then we have the horse here. All right, here's the thing. Like I said, there were 2 pet trackers through the organization called MARN, Missing Animal Response Network, that both lived locally. One was a male and one was a female. Now, Athena reached out to both of them, but immediately noticed that the female seemed much more enthusiastic about the job. She also had a horse, right? And a trained search dog. Now, because she had this horse, she was able to cover a lot of ground on her horse. And this park is about 1,200 acres and surrounded by land, right? Wilderness lands. But the important thing here is that this woman cared more about finding this dog than she did about logging hours and charging, you know, dollars for hours, trading dollars for minutes, right? It was more about just succeeding for her, right? And she ultimately caught Atlas by grabbing that collar that I said was significant before he was able to slip away. She caught him at sundown, and he was attracted to her dog and her horse, and he got close enough that she was able to grab him. And the interesting thing is that she caught him on the 10th day. She stuck with this job for 10 days. Atlas was loose for a total of 13 days. And the last thing I want to mention about these cards is all 3 of these Grand Jeu cards belong to a group called the Zodiac, or timing groups. So they all relate to an amount of time, okay? Now, the Queen of Hearts is assigned the number of 18. The 3 of Diamonds is a 9. The 9 of Hearts is a 15. So I had told Athena that he would probably be loose for 9 to 18 days. Wild, huh? Because he was actually loose for a total of 13 days and was caught on the 10th day. So as you can see, the universe aligned all the right people at the right moments. And Atlas comes into my grooming shop every 6 weeks for grooming. We've named him Slippery Sam. And everyone lived happily ever after. The end. How's that for a great story? Woo! So, yeah, thanks for watching. And if you participated in this in the group, you did a great job, as I said. For those of you who haven't joined that group yet, it's called Lisa Loves the Lenormand Traditional Method of Distance, where we are having fun playing with our cards. So come on over and join us, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody!